I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Supervisors for June 16, 2020. And I would like to have the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Tully, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First thing on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the public comment period. It's an opportunity for citizens to give input on any of the issues on the board agenda which are not the subject of a public hearing and is not intended as a question and answer period. Mrs. Sharaki did good, huh? Has anyone signed up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Paul Gabbard?
Mr. Gabbard?
Been a long time.
Yes, sir.
Hope everybody's well. I'd just like to make a comment on the COVID-19 relief fund to the town of Front Royal and to the relief money for the Chamber of Commerce. While the current town government, which is the town council and the interim town manager, are still in office, the county should give no financial assistance to the town whatsoever. There is no willingness from the town to work with the EDA on the police department loan, which only shows they were trying to make the EDA fail. So why work with them? I know everybody wants to pull everybody together, but the town is not willing to do that. The untruths to the town citizens is deplorable. One example is creating a town EDA. They knew from the start they would create one if given the go-ahead was given. When all they would say is, we don't know, we're not sure, we're just asking questions. They knew from the beginning that they wanted to start their own EDA. There was no thought given to disbanding the tourism department with no plans whatsoever for the future. Citizens of the town are looked at as nothing more than a cash cow. That's how they are looked at by the interim town manager and the town council. There is so much preferential treatment going on, who knows where any financial assistance will end up. It is not up to the taxpayers of the county or the town to keep the Chamber of Commerce afloat. The Chamber has a history of running out of money and not being able to show where it went. The only excuse now is that they're losing money from lack of dues. That's not the taxpayer's problem. We shouldn't have to pay that. I encourage you to not help the town in the financial problems that they have created for themselves, for the lack of judgment, the lack of leadership. I pay town and county taxes, which means I would be paying taxes. I would be paying twice for both of these relief funds. Don't make me pay twice. The town's going to gouge me anyway for it. But you all, don't make me pay that with my county taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Sharaki, is there anyone else who would like to speak? We're going to have to change your name.
I think you need to go
I
back.
already changed my name.
My name is Gary Kushner, and I'm at 1106 Fetchett Road. My name's not as hard to pronounce as hers is, but hers really isn't that hard. It's Shiraki. Very simple.
I even have a just for that very reason.
It didn't help.
Does not.
First, I'll make a couple of quick comments on the what's on the consent agenda about the Morgan Ford public hearing. I just recently learned about this, and I'm not happy with it. It's a lot more money for another recreational opportunity. It's a mini park. And I think it flies against the physical conservancy policy or mindset that you all have indicated that you're following, which is consistent with what the public is looking for. It was the basis for your election. I see it done for a public hearing. I don't know why he even has to go that far. I think it's somebody's boondoggle, and I think we shouldn't, waste a lot of time talking about it. We just need to say, we're not doing it. We're going to take the money we got from DuPont and just use it. We're not going to spend any more county money, because if we put more county money into it for another mini park, then we're going to have to maintain it. And that's how your budget grows and gets out of control. So I'm against that. The other thing I want to address is item O that's on the agenda, the equitable distribution of the coronavirus relief funds. And while there has been previous negotiation with the town and a tentative solution regarding a sharing of the $3.5 million, there are several reasons why this should not be implemented. First, the guidelines provide no obligation for the county to be involved with any type of sharing with a political entity within its jurisdiction. In a spirit of mutual respect and cooperation, an offer was initially made to jointly disperse a portion of the stimulus funds and then have each jurisdiction separately have an amount to distribute to citizens it primarily serves. And for that consideration, respect, and cooperative mindset, the county was insulted by a majority of the council. They replied that they were just being offered crumbs. Their response reflected that they only want to have power. They need to be in charge. In reality, they would do nothing, so being offered any independent role was a gift to which their majority was totally unappreciative. The county council has not shown itself to be a cooperative partner on several occasions. Its refusal to be cooperative with the county on EDA issues has damaged the non-town residents, leaving them to be affected by the continued legal and operational funding responsibilities. They've abandoned efforts to clean up the EDA and establish it as a positive entity for both political entities as originally envisioned. They failed to meet even their basic obligation to pay the principal on the police department, putting financial pressure on the EDA and the county. They've even sued the EDA, which affects the county as well, because the EDA needs the funds to defend themselves. While tourism was previously managed collectively via the Joint Tourism Committee, they unilaterally damaged that entity by firing one of their senior principals in that group without consulting or even courtesy notification to the county of their plan. And it created negative consequences for themselves and the county, with the Joint Committee now thrown into uncertainty. They had no plan to resolve the problem that we're creating right off the bat. Now, with the funds disbursement offer, the majority of the council has proven that they are not a good faith entity and are only interested in power. Now, the tentative fund disbursement proposal gives the town 37% for them to decide how to allocate, and the remaining 63% to be allocated by the board for businesses outside the town. Now, this plan will not produce the most fair and effective use of the money, because you're going to have two systems, two sets of criteria. So somebody, a business in the county or a business within the town, is not going to end up being fairly treated. There's no way that your criteria and your processes are going to be exactly equal. Each jurisdiction will not be dispersing using the same guidelines. So, the businesses are going to be shortchanged one way or another. This is the greatest single factor why you shouldn't implement the idea that's been presented to you. It will ensure that there's an inequity between the town businesses and the non-town businesses. This board exists to serve all residents within its jurisdictions, just not those residing outside the town boundaries. Now, Congress has legislated several stimulus bills aimed at reducing the impact of COVID-19 on American citizens and their businesses. The PPP was directed to help employers retain staff and provide continued income to workers. The expanded unemployment benefits also provided assistance to affected workers. Now, the general public was given a one-time payment of up to $1,200 per person and extra money for children. The CARES relief money is intended to address COVID-related government financial impacts and business losses, the economic impacts on our society. Now, this can be best done by this board not kowtowing to the council and alone creating one system and one set of criteria for dispersing all the CARES funds for town and non-town businesses that you represent. You represent everyone. The council has disqualified themselves from being an active player in this responsibility and should not be included in any fashion henceforth. This is the bed they've made, they need to lie in it. It's not only a proper result of their biting the hands that feeds them reaction, but will produce the most equitable disbursement of compensation to all affected businesses. Now, the criteria for getting the best bang for the buck regarding dispersing of funds to businesses, in my opinion, should consider the following. Both the town and the county have lost revenue, which affects all residents. So based on an estimate of revenue losses of each entity, a percentage of the relief money, 40, 50%, you can pick a number, what you think is reasonable, of the $3.5 million should be allocated to each jurisdiction to address those specific losses, to make us whole in our budget, so to speak, or to reduce the impact, the financial impact. The remainder would be awarded to the affected business community to offset the economic damage. By you guys, not the town, they're out of it. No business deemed essential that has been able to operate fully and in many cases prosper should qualify for benefits. This relates to Walmart, Target, Martin's, Aldi's, pharmacies, fuel dispensaries, and any of the other essential businesses that have not been economically affected. These are generally large companies that have substantial assets and many financial options. That's why they haven't been substantially economically affected.
Mr. Kirk, I don't mean to interrupt you because I know you're on a roll. I appreciate that. How much longer do you think you'll need? We've got a lot of people that need to talk tonight.
I didn't think we did. We're pretty,
I'm not going to let you just run on and on and on.
well, I've got, I don't know, maybe 5 more minutes of this, maybe a little less. And then I've got other topics that apparently I'm not going to have time. You're not going to get the benefit of my wisdom. Now I'll specify right up front. That was sarcasm, so you don't.
I caught that.
Okay. Really need me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
But so to try and clear that up, the PPP funds were for a specific purpose. These relief funds are for a specific purpose. So the solution to this is the easy thing to do. You take the non-essential businesses, you take a look at the B-poll taxes that they pay. That shows the level of their economic association in the economy and their opportunity for loss. And you determine what their percentage is of the total B-poll taxes paid. And then you look at what's left over from the relief funds money that you didn't allocate to the town and the county to make up for your financial revenue losses, and you split that to those non-essential businesses. They don't have to make an application for the money. You don't need a process or a system to evaluate applications. It's very simple. The numbers are already available. So if we're concerned about time factor here, and we do have a limited time factor to close this thing out, that solves that problem. makes the council accountable for their actions, and it appropriately disperses the money to the non-essential businesses who have been the ones that have had the substantial economic losses. So, I'll have to deal with the other issues on another venue.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Siraki?
Christie,
Who did that? I am so sorry.
One day.
Well, one day it'll come.
Christy Atwood, 1255 Pilgrims Way, Bentonville, Virginia. As a small business owner, the Warren County Chamber of Commerce is a very beneficial organization. It is made up of many citizens who own small businesses and are the backbone and pulse of the community. It needs to be funded and given the assistance to repair and build not only our businesses, but the community as a whole, because it does put on a lot of fundraisers that bring the whole community out. The chamber should be transformed to include a tourism department, and the money the town proposes to outsource to someone for tourism, they should allow the chamber to put that money into better marketing and opportunities. The Chamber of Commerce is an asset, and I think if it was managed correctly and given the tourism to add on, I think it would be very beneficial, because there's a lot of stuff that I served on the board for a while, but there's a lot of stuff that it does and it can benefit the small businesses that can actually bring tourism here. Like, like wedding venues, such as Page County. Their Chamber of Commerce is excellent, and they do a lot of stuff with tourism as well as the chamber. Thank you.
Mrs. Siraki?
Mr. Chairman, no one else has signed up to speak on the agenda.
See? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak?
Except me.
You had your chance, sir. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the agenda? Final call. The agenda public comment period is now closed. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the report on the COVID-19 expenditures for Warren County. Chair and Logan.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. At your desk, you have my detailed report for through the beginning of June for the county's COVID-19 related department level expenditures. We are currently at $138,696.34. And I give a breakdown of each department's expenditures and then the line items of, this is a pretty massive spreadsheet that myself and then the town are using under the same method to report our collections. So I've printed the different selections and the line items, so hopefully that you can make sense of it all. But I've grouped, the schools are grouped into their emergency daycare expenditures. And then everything I've gotten so far is here. So,
Now, when did you actually end this for this report? June what?
It was really through today. I just got fire rescue yesterday, so. But it really is changing weekly. I'm getting stuff each week from each of the different departments that you see here. I'm also getting, I've gotten Northwestern Community Services and Samuel's Public Library, their expenditures, because they're going to submit through the county and then that reimbursement through the county as well. So it's all here. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Or once you get time to read through all the line items, if you'd like to give me a call, please do so. And if you would like to see any of the receipts, they're all in my office and a binder. So.
Thank you. This is great work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That'd be good.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have a question about this though. So the $138,000, so I thought that we allocated $100,000.
No, 200,000.
200,000, okay. Thank you for that clarification, because I was like, did we vote for extra and I missed it? So, okay.
No,
Thank you, Taryn.
no vote at all, other than the 200,000. Now, next item on our agenda is reports from our board members. Mr. Fox?
I'd just like to report that recently took a tour of the airport along with Mrs. Oates and Mr. Childress. Most of the airport basically looks to be in fair shape. There is a few maintenance issues that need to be addressed, and of course there's a maintenance issue with their manager right now. And also, I think the roof, it was mentioned that a new roof on the main building needs to be replaced. Also attended a meeting of the airport commission, and I think that what was discussed is that, and it's on our agenda for tonight, is the rates, the hangar rates, and we'll be addressing those later, and that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Mrs. Collins?
I continue to go out and check around the process of the Rivermont Fire Department. It's come along really nicely. We've gotten over a couple bumps in the road we had there, and we're moving right along. I was out there, I forget what day, and tiles going down, bathrooms are looking like bathrooms now instead of just rooms. Continue to take our weekly Wednesday all-day class for certified supervisor, and on June 5th, in the early evening hours, we had torrential rain in South River. I think the rest of the county got rain, but we got hit with 3.5 inches in about an hour, and it was, I live on the river, but I all of a sudden felt like I was in an island instead of just living on the river. And I want to say the response of VDOT was absolutely amazing. I went around and I started taking pictures and texting them to Mr. Carter, and I didn't even expect them to come out that evening, but sure enough, they came out that evening, worked to the wee hours of the morning, then another crew came out the next day, and CenturyLink as well, because whole roads were washed out. It was truly amazing. And tried to get to all the roads in South River. If I missed one, I certainly apologize, and if there's an issue that anybody's aware of, give me a call and let me know, and I'll be glad to go back out. One thing I do have, and I know it's not on our agenda, I'm a little concerned about our love sign project out on Guard Hill Road, about putting in a parking lot there. So at some point, I'd like to look at that and, you know, my concerns about that. But other than that, I think that's it.
Thank you. Mrs. Oates?
I have been going to the downtown rebound, which is awesome. I'm liking the fact that the main street is shut down for the weekend, and you can walk and you can dine and you can shop and you can hang out and talk to your friends and still maintain 6 feet of distance. So it's been I think it's been a real positive experience for Front Royal, and if you haven't been, I believe that it's going to become a regular event. So on June 5th, I attended Front Royal Unites, the walk, with a peaceful protest of unity with my fellow citizens. And I was greatly moved by the sense of unity in that organization, and it was a great experience. I would like to do a shout out to Todd Jones and Mr. Stanley, because I learned from one of my constituents that there was no telephone service available to a location on Kreiser Road, and that telephone service had been out for 11, 12, maybe longer days. And the folks at this location couldn't even dial 911. And so Mr. Stanley and Mr. Jones used the power of persuasion to get that rectified. And they were both wonderful. And everyone there would like to thank you. They couldn't do it in person, so they asked me to say thank you for listening and doing something to fix it, because it's so frustrating. And I am also doing the weekly class with Ms. Cullers for the certified supervisors, and with the length of these agendas, we may be certified and certifiable. So anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you. My report is kind of similar to what everybody's been saying. I have visited Rivermont Fire Department building out there as well. I've also talked with quite a few citizens over the last couple of weeks about anything and everything that they wanted to talk about. The COVID-19 is here. It's not going to go away real soon. We need to be aware of it. Everybody can challenge the metrics. Everybody can challenge the numbers, but we're seeing some increases, so we just got to be careful. I did go to the demonstration that was held last Friday night. I was fortunate enough to speak there, and it was good. It was peaceful, and hoping the demonstration that comes in for Saturday will be just the same. I've been downtown a couple of times to have lunch. It's always an experience to eat outside. Personally, I'm not comfortable going into any of the restaurants yet, but I am willing to eat outside. We've been welcomed there. It's been good food. I've been to quite a few emergency meetings. We visited the sheriff. We visited anybody in this building that wanted to talk, we've talked to them. And we're going to continue to do that. I've visited many of the business owners in town just to see how they're being affected, so we can make some decisions about this appropriation of the monies that we can give to the whole county. And that concludes my report. So, Mr. Administrator, or County Administrator, Mr. Stanley.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. First, a coronavirus update. County staff continue to monitor the situation and take necessary precautions. The Government Center officially opened back up fully to the public on June the 8th. Masks and face coverings are required for those who can wear them. We have masks available for folks that need them. We have experienced no issues with reopening to date. Parks and Recreation, support the Governor's Forward Virginia Phase 2 plan. Warren County Parks and Recreation reopened an additional portion of the outdoor facilities for group exercise on June 5th, subject to the following. Use of outdoor facilities is at your own risk. Persons in a high-risk group, as determined by the CDC, which includes persons over 65 or anyone, regardless of age, who have significant medical condition, including but not limited to asthma, it is not recommended that you use any facilities other than walking trails. By order of the Governor, groups of more than 50 individuals are prohibited, and we encourage folks to practice social distancing and be safe during the pandemic. Playgrounds, picnic shelters, trails, skate park, and other open spaces are open to the general public with new signs posted. All park system restrooms remain locked and closed with signs posted, but we do have portable restrooms available that are cleaned 1 to 2 times per week. Tennis courts remain open for singles play only with social distancing required, and basketball courts remain closed. We hope to be opening up the pool in the next week to lap swimming and exercise with restrictions again in the coming week. Public safety building, the community room is reopened to the public and is available for reservation. You can contact the Warren County Sheriff's Office. This is also our first regular Board of Supervisors meeting the public can attend in person. And the library is also opening by appointment only later in the week. Again, I want to express my thanks to Rick Farrell and Chief Mabey and all the members of our emergency response team for their preparation efforts. Coronavirus employee recognition. Each week, Warren County will highlight employees who have gone above and beyond the call of duty to help during the COVID-19 pandemic, who are helping to make sure the county is prepared to meet the challenges presented by the coronavirus, and who are ensuring that essential services are being provided to citizens. This week, the county is recognizing Emily Shiraki, Warren County Board of Supervisors Deputy Clerk. In addition to her duties with the board, she also serves as the Executive Assistant to the County Administrator. From the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, Emily has been involved in the county's as our PIO, Public Information Officer, capably helping to get the word out to the community on the county's efforts to combat the virus. She's also been instrumental in handling all the arrangements for all the county's various electronic board and committee meetings, including the county budget public hearing. She's been able to get all the extra duties done while doing a regular job, and she even managed to get married. So thank you, Emily, for all you've done and continue to do every day to make Warren County run smoothly. Coronavirus vulnerable revenue, I'm pleased to report for the month of April, the county share of local sales tax revenue was $376,059.21. That amount is up 14% over the amount collected in April of 2019, which was $329,439.25. Finance Department has been relocated within the Government Center to the former registrar space, thanks to General Services Director Brandon Rosser and General Services and Parks and Rec maintenance staff for their efforts to assist in the move. Yesterday, June 15th, was the first work day for Jonathan C. Munch, CPA, Certified Public Finance Official, and a Virginia Contracting Associate, as our new Finance Director for Warren County. John, if you would stand and be recognized, please welcome John. John graduated from George Mason University in Fairfax with a Bachelor of Science in Accounting. He's been, again, CPA since 2002, a Certified Public Finance Officer since 2015, and Virginia Contracting Associate since 2018. He's an active member of the Virginia Government Finance Officers Association, having served as president and executive board member. In that capacity, he chaired several committees and subcommittees. Mr. Munch has also served as a conference speaker and instructor for both BGFOA and the Government Finance Officers Association of the U.S. and Canada. He fills the vacancy created this past October by the resignation of Andre Fletcher, our former finance director. Mr. Munch joins Warren County from Fauquier, where he's been employed the past 7 years as the Director of Finance for the Fauquier County Government Public Schools. In Fauquier, he was responsible for planning, implementing, and directing financial operations of the Consolidated Finance Department, which includes financial reporting, planning, and implementation of fiscal policy, oversight of debt portfolio and issuance of debt, and direction and preparation of budget, internal audit, and pre-audit functions. Prior to his tenure with Fauquier, John was also employed by Prince William County, where he served in progressively responsible accounting positions for almost 8 years. We are very fortunate to have someone of John's knowledge, background, and expertise joining our staff. I want to again express my gratitude to Carolyn Still and Andre Fletcher, former finance directors, for their support in helping fill in the gap and ensure that functions were performed and reviewed each month, and budget and audit functions for the past year were completed on time. I sincerely appreciate the hard work of our dedicated finance staff, including Christine Howell, payroll tech, Abby Thompson, accounting technician, and Jeannie Decker, our CSA coordinator, and Connie Oden, our former administrative assistant, whose service has been invaluable in keeping the day-to-day functions going. With the Department of Social Services, I wanted to report that Director Deanna Cheatham has tendered her resignation effective July 8th. She's been employed as the county's DSS director since July 1 of 2017, and she's leaving to take the DSS director position with the city of Williamsburg. We're extremely sad to see Deanna leave our department and our community. I've been pleased by our growth for the past 4 years as both a year as assistant director and director. Deanna's worked hard to stabilize staffing within the department during her tenure, and during the past several months she's also worked diligently to help the community through the pandemic by working to support CCAP in their food distribution, as well as the thermal shelter with their support of the homeless. We wish Deanna the best as she continues with the next step in her career. We've already got the ad posted through the Department of Social Services for the state for a replacement, and we wish her the best. Development Review Committee met virtually on May 27. The committee discussed projects in the county, including several short-term tourist rental conditional use permit applications. They have got an update on the multi-tenant building at Urban Commons with construction underway. Heard about a potential landscaping business on Winchester Road and a proposed private school on East Refuge Church Road. The committee also discussed town projects, including an update on the sheet site project. Building is underway and probably should be completed in about a month. Harbor Freight will be moved into the former Big Lot space, and the former bank site Gateway Plaza is in the planning stage to be converted to a drive-through restaurant business. The committee will meet again on June 24th. Just the last thing I wanted to mention, wayfinding and signage on June 9th. Planning Director Taryn Logan presented the wayfinding and signage project to representatives from Central VDOT Traffic Engineering Division for wayfinding in our local VDOT residency. VDOT is supportive of our proposal, sign designs, and proposed routes and destinations. They were complimentary of how the county and town have worked together to to coordinate a consistent integrated wayfinding signage system throughout the community. They requested a few additional items which Frazier Associates has sent to them for their final approval. And the next step in the process is to move forward with the bid process for installation and work with a local residency to coordinate final sign locations in the field. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless there are any specific questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. It is 7. Oh, Mr. Ham?
I have no report.
All right, thank you. It's 7:40. We've got a public hearing on item number K, which is the ordinance to amend section 76 of the Warren County Code, payment of delinquent taxes, Mr. Ham. And would you care to help us with that?
Certainly, the current Warren County Code provides that certain taxes have to be paid prior to the issuance of a building code. And that's correct, but incomplete, because the state code requires that the applicant shall furnish proof that the taxes or license fees required by any county have been paid so as to be qualified to bid upon work. So this amendment brings the county code into, county code just goes part of the way there, but the county code really should go all the way there so that people aren't misled and think they only have to pay this one thing, because they in fact have to pay all county taxes and license fees before they can build. And so this ordinance does that.
Thank you. Mrs. Shiraki, is there anyone else on there that may want to talk about this at all?
Would you like to open the public hearing?
You sure?
And no one has signed up, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this at all? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak? Final call. The public hearing is now closed. What's the pleasure of the board?
I move the Board of Supervisors adopt the attached ordinance to amend Warren County Code Section 76-9.1, requiring the payment of delinquent taxes for applicants seeking a building permit.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any additional discussion?
So I just wanted to ask Mr. Ham, because this is only for the contractor. So the homeowner, what if the contractor's pulling a building permit for the homeowner? Are they not included, or how is that treated by the Code of Virginia?
I think that the contractor would be pulling if the, there's an argument I think this is going to be a case-by-case determination by the building inspector, but if it's clear that this is a renovation of a home by somebody, then perhaps you would take the position that the contractor is applying on behalf of the homeowner. And, there's all kinds of issues here about LLCs, et cetera, that are going to have to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. I have made this ordinance as simple as possible and tracking the state code, which doesn't provide, complete answer to your question. And so, sitting here cold, I don't know the answer to your question.
I appreciate it. I just know that it's going to be convoluted. And
It's the same issue that currently exists. We're just making it, aligned with the state code.
And I'm sure that there are people who will pull the permit for somebody or on behalf of somebody to avoid, because that's always what the game is. And so I was just wondering, is there any way that we could require both entities to have their taxes paid before permits are pulled, or is that not acceptable within this?
Well, it's got to be the applicant. So if you take the technical version of that, then you know, you're right, that the homeowner would not be able to, you know, would skate by with that. And that probably is the right interpretation. It's possible that there is some case or attorney general opinion that interprets this in some way. Also, you know, Mr. Beam, who, you know, this is his full-time job to work on this stuff, he might have some procedures about that. I don't think I've seen him here tonight, so I don't know that he's here, but I
In the
suspect.
caucus room.
Okay. You know, he might be able to answer your question, but also might not, so.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ham. I just wanted to get clarification.
Yeah, I'm sorry not to provide you any, but the clarification is in that statute, and it is very broad. And so I've made our ordinance very simple and tracking the statute.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Bean is fine.
Okay, good. Your question again?
So, Mr. Bean, if you want to come up, I just wanted to understand the ordinance to amend Chapter 76 of the Warren County Code regarding the payment of delinquent taxes, if it could include both the homeowner and the contractor. Because so if I'm going to get my, you know, if I'm going to have my basement finished, right? And so I'm going to have the contractor pull the permit, but if the contractor says to me, Mrs. Oates, I would like for you to pull this permit because I haven't paid my taxes, what do we have in terms of recourse?
The way that the code is being presented this evening and the way the state has it within the ordinance or the state legislation, the administrative code, either would require all taxes, no
Okay,
matter where. So for a property that you have 3/4 of a mile down the road, those taxes need to be paid as
Okay.
well. And that would go for the homeowner as well.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Bean. That clears it up. I appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Colors? Mr. May?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we can go back to,
Consent agenda. Oh, no, that's unfinished.
I'm sorry.
Oh. Appropriation.
Yeah, right. Next thing on our agenda is the appropriations and transfers. Does everyone have time to review those? And do we have a motion?
Yeah, Ms. Colors and I met with our new finance director and Carolyn and Mr. Stanley yesterday, and so I will make the motion that we approve the appropriations and transfers as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any questions or concerns? Could we get a roll call, please?
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. May?
Aye.
Ms. Colors? Mr. Fox?
Aye. Next thing on our list is the approval of the accounts. Could we get a motion for that or discussion?
Yeah, I will make the motion that we approve the approval of the accounts as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. We continue to look over these month to month, and we do have lots of questions, but I have no problem seconding the motion.
Thank you. Any additional questions or concerns? Could we get a roll call on that as well, please?
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Colors? Mr. May?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Next on our agenda in unfinished business is the Front Royal Warren County Airport proposed hangar lease increase for fiscal year 2020, 2021. Mr. Childress?
Good evening, Chairman May, members of the board.
At the April 1st, 2014 meeting of the Board of Supervisors, they took action to revise the airport hangar lease policy and increase the lease rates of general aviation hangars in the Northwest Storage Unit at the Front Royal Warren County Airport. That action was recommended and supported by the Airport Commission. The revised policy included a provision for the lease rates to be reviewed annually and increased each July 1st to a rate equal to the previous year's consumer price index for urban areas, or CPIU, for a maximum of 3%. Should there be no increase in the previous year's CPIU, then the lease rates would remain the same with no increase. Subsequent revisions to individual unit lease agreements since then have contained that provision. Based on recent data published by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the CPIU last year increased by 1.8%. So an increase in monthly hangar lease rental rates for fiscal year 2020-21 would result, and I won't read them all, you have them in your packet, but the individual lease rates would increase anywhere from $2 to $7 per unit, depending on the size of the unit. The proposed lease increase, one for 36 hangars, would result in an additional $2,436 in revenue for the airport next fiscal year, starting July 1st. It's important for the airport to continually look at the rental rates and other sources of revenue in order to meet the basic operational costs while striving to maintain self-sufficiency. Typically, the Airport Commission will discuss the annual lease increase rates at their spring meeting in March and provide a formal recommendation to the board. However, the Commission wasn't able to meet in March due to COVID-19 restrictions. As directed by the board at your last meeting on June 2nd, a special virtual meeting of the Airport Commission was held this past week, June 10th, to discuss the hangar lease increase. The consensus of the Commission at the special meeting was to forego an annual general hangar increase next fiscal year based on the economic hardships created by the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, the Commission recommends that when the board does consider an annual increase for fiscal year 2021-22, the rate will be based on the CPIU index for 2020 or the aforementioned 1.8%, whichever rate is higher. You have several suggested motions are in front of you, but I believe Mr. Fox indicated during his report that basically what I said, consensus of the board was to forgo an increase this year.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, and so if they forego the rate increase this year, then it would be made up equally perhaps next year. Is that?
Yes, at least the 1.8 would be implemented next year, or if the CPIU is higher than 1.8 this year, then that would be implemented, whichever rate is higher.
And so the Airport Commission could get by without an increase this year without any difficulty, is that right?
Well, 25, I wouldn't go that far, but $2,436 would be lost this year as far as revenue goes. But yes, we could manage without it, but every little bit helps out there.
Okay.
Additional discussion? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the Board of Supervisors forego an annual general hangar increase in fiscal year 2020-21 based on the economic hardships created by the COVID-19 pandemic. And when the board considers an annual increase for fiscal year 2021-22, the rate will be based on the CPI-U index for 2020 or the aforementioned 1.8%, whichever rate is higher.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any additional discussion?
So Bob, I know that we told, because of COVID, but so you own an airplane. It's $6 a month in some cases. And so I'm really got a little heartburn about this. I think that, we need the extra $2,400 considering the circumstances with the airport. And so, you know, I'm just gonna go on the record that I think we need to implement the increase and justify it by, you know, saying that the airport is, I mean, it needs some maintenance stuff that we're gonna need to address right away. And so, you know, their contribution, I think, would be helpful in establishing those kinds of maintenance upgrades. The roof is the least, I think, of the issues. There are some other things that need to happen there.
And I agree with you on that. The reason I seconded the motion was because of the issues with swapping over management and stuff. I just felt that it seemed fair to get organized and then look at the increase. So I agree. If you can afford an airplane, I've always said it's a hobby house, and if you can't afford your hobby, move on to a different hobby. So I get that, but at the same time, I think that that due to the issues that are out there, it's kind of unfair to cause them, you know, more when we haven't quite delivered what we should either. So.
Additional comments? Mr.
I would just like to say, I think that what I made when I made this motion, it was for what was recommended by the Airport Commission, so I'm following their orders, if you will, sir.
Could I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Oates?
No.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Ms. Colors?
No.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Motion fails.
I just talked to Doug a little bit about this because I thought this might happen. So my understanding is, and anybody hearing this, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a policy that says it increases based on the CPIU, but that isn't any kind of directive, which means that in this circumstance, as odd as it sounds, the failed motion means that you've taken no action, which means that there is no increase, which is what Mr. Fox proposed anyway. So that's where we are. And in reality is that you wouldn't have had to really make even that motion. You would have had to take an affirmative action if you wanted to increase the rates, and that wasn't the motion. So it's like saying, you know, I move
Double
the
negative.
taxes not be increased. You know, you could also just say nothing. So, and I understand that, you know, this is, and I don't mean to be speaking harshly of you, Mr. Fox, that was the suggested motion, but there is no increase because there is no action of the board. When the motion fails, there's no action of the board, and there's nothing in place, is my understanding, that automatically raises the rates, which I would be surprised at anyway.
Do we need to do anything going forward, or just it fails?
There's nothing to do.
All right, thank you. Next on our agenda is the Front Royal Warren County Chamber of Commerce funding request. Mr. Stanley?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, and in your packets, a request from the Front Royal Warren County Chamber of Commerce requesting funding from the county to support their operations to the end of 2020. Specifically, they are asking for $10,000 a month, and that's $10,000 was coming originally from the town, $5,000 from the county, $5,000 from the town. The Chamber of Commerce is a 501c6 organization and is not eligible for the Payroll Protection or PPP program. Unfortunately, the Chamber has had to cancel or postpone its largest fundraisers, including the Wine and Craft Festival and the annual dinner due to the COVID-19 restrictions. Also, I believe, the golf tournament. The Chamber is providing support to our local businesses during the crisis, including launching Front Royal To Go to assist local businesses who are offering delivery, online ordering, curbside pickup, and personal shopping. They're also assisting local businesses by connecting them to resources for applying for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL, loans and the PPP, and have launched several virtual meetings to connect the business community. The cost to the county to fund their request, July through December, would be $60,000. Based on our discussion in the previous work session, we agree with the town to take 30,000 off the town side and 30,000 off the county side from our CARES Act funding. The town, again, has agreed to allow those funds to be taken off the top as part of their allocation, and the funds would not qualify for FEMA funding. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and Ms. Foster is here as well to answer any questions you might have.
Nikki, do you have any questions, concerns, comments?
No, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have any.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I move that the Board of Supervisors appropriate an additional $30,000 in funding to the Front Royal Warren County Chamber of Commerce for a total appropriation of $60,000. Such appropriation is contingent upon the Chamber using county funds for expenses incurred as a result of COVID-19 and upon county funding being an eligible expenditure under the CARES Act. All matters stated in the June 2nd, 2020 motion that are inconsistent with this motion are repealed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, is there any questions or concerns?
I do have concerns.
Thank you.
And it's nothing against the chamber. I just feel like, everyone else is gonna have to apply, and the chamber didn't have to apply. And so I feel like we're starting out without an equitable system here. I kind of feel like we have the cart before the horse. We haven't really set up protocol or anything, and so they automatically are getting a lump sum where everyone else is gonna have to put in for it and buy for it. And then it was suggested that we also pay them to administer if it's turned over to them for that process. So that is my concern, that the optics of it are not gonna look like it's being done fairly for the whole community. And I'll just have to say that. So.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns?
Well, I just want to, I want to say something is because I think you guys, some of the folks who've spoken tonight don't understand the CARES Act. So the CARES Act is not intended for restoration of government tax dollars. That's not what it was meant to do. The CARES Act is actually meant to subsidize, and it comes from federal dollars. It's not coming from county dollars. There are no county dollars involved. So these have been federal dollars, so it definitely comes from your federal tax dollars. However, the CARES Act is intended to help local organizations, and businesses and individuals who have suffered under the COVID-19 restrictions. Many of us were allowed to work from home, and myself, I'm one of those people, and I'm very fortunate, but I recognize that not everybody in our community has had that luxury. So I appreciate the chamber. I know what they're trying to do, and they've propped up the Front Royal To Go page. They've been working on that so that the local restaurants, that web app, that app is awesome. You can go in and see everybody's menu. You can choose what you want. And, and I share Ms. Culler's concerns. However, the chamber was our first request. Couldn't get FEMA dollars, couldn't get PPP. And so I will support the motion as a result.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Cullors?
No.
Mr. May?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items to be pulled for further discussion?
I'm hoping my agenda, the numbers, because I think it's changed a little, the consent agenda. I like to pull 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Did you say that also?
Yes.
Any others? You had mentioned before about number 7, more than 4.
Yeah, that more than 4 boat landing, we wanted to pull that, yes.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So,
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? And items number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 will be removed for further discussion. And all those in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not positive you voted.
Oh, aye. I'm sorry. I said it in my head. Discussion on item number 2.
yes, when I read the explanation and summary, I kind of wondered why, and then reading down that this position, no one, it had been advertised and there were no applications put in for it. So I thought that was kind of odd that the former sheriff had been on that committee and we didn't get anyone from law enforcement for it. So I called Sheriff Butler this morning and asked him, because I didn't want to vote on something and not understand why someone in law enforcement had not applied for this. And he was not aware of this. And so after discussion, and looking at the description of the Virginia juvenile detention, so, protocol, I feel like we need to have someone from the sheriff's office. So it was suggested, since Captain Holzbauer takes care of court services and so forth, that he should be appointed to this and be a point of contact.
Ms. Collins, if I may. So Mr. Childress was appointed in December of last year, and at that time, when the vacancy was up, I had reached out to the sheriff's office, and no one at that time was interested, just as an explanation.
Okay, I appreciate that. That was December 10th, so that was kind of in a limbo time between transition of powers there, so to say. So I would like to recommend that we appoint Captain Holzbauer. I appreciate Bob's time on that committee, but when I look at what the purpose of it being on that committee is, I just feel like, having someone in the law enforcement, and since it was law enforcement there before, it just makes sense to keep that.
Any other concerns, questions? Is there a motion on that one
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Captain Holzbauer to be a representative to the Northwestern Regional Juvenile Detention Center Commission.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. May?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the annual term contract with Racy Engineering, PLLC, Mr. Childers and Mrs. Jordan.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The county currently has a contract with Racy Engineering. They provide survey services and road and drainage studies for the roads in Shenandoah Farm Sanitary District, Lakefront Royal Sanitary District, and other roadway drainage, public works maintenance, and other construction projects for county departments and other sanitary districts within Warren County. That current contract was set to expire July 17th, 2020.
Ms. Jordan, if you could actually step closer to the microphone. Every time you step back, he has to crank up the volume, and that's what's causing the feedback.
Gotcha, thank you. Pursuant to the current contract the county has, the county has the option of renewing these contracts. Currently, we are on our last renewal. So if the board approves to renew the contract for one more year, this will be the last time that we would renew. Next year, we would have to put it out to bid. I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Is there any reason that it can't be put out to bid now?
No, the county has that option to do that. Currently, Racing Engineering has provided satisfactory services. Their pricing is going to remain the same as it was last year, so there's not an increase in pricing. However, if the board would prefer to put it out to bid, that is definitely at the board's option.
And if I may, Mr. May, they're currently in the process of field survey on 2 active projects that more than likely, I know one will be completed by the end of the current term.
What is the pricing? Because that was one thing that was not in here. I mean, if you have it, if not, we can get it. But it's just nice to have some numbers of what was general.
That I do have it. I believe it was sent to me a little bit earlier. I'll be glad to provide the board a copy of that. I do not have it with me this evening. It is in my office.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Mr. Childress, are you aware of costs?
Yes, and those were I did have a conversation with Racing's vice president last week, and the costs aren't increasing with this 1-year extension over what we've been previously planning in last year.
I mean, I'd like to try to get them to lower their costs, to become more competitive.
Sure.
Is there a way to do that through communications and just plain asking?
But we can certainly ask, sir. We can certainly ask.
Okay.
What service do they provide? Is it survey?
Actual field survey, courthouse research, setting of property pins, right-of-way markers, clearing the brush if they need to do the actual survey, and then oftentimes, depending on the type of service, the type of survey service they need, it could be a working type plat or drawing or an actual certified plat that would be recorded along with the deed in the clerk's office.
And so we have a 5-year, again, the same type of contract we discussed at the last meeting, which is basically a 1 year with the option of renewing for 4.
Yes, and so we have utilized 3 of those, so this would be the 4th renewal year. Okay.
The drainage study that was done up at Shenandoah Farms, is that still being used by Mr. Racy and for those projects up there?
Yes, sir. That original road and drainage study was completed by Panoni out of Winchester. But all the various projects that we do, whether it's a road project, turnover VDOT, or an internal project that we fund ourselves, we will design and oftentimes survey
Mr.
based
Childress,
off
can you step up to the microphone?
survey based off this drainage study.
So when you do more construction up there, that could change the drainage issues from time to time, is that correct?
It could, but the original study tried to encompass what the ultimate could or would look like, would be.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion on this?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of Supervisors authorize the county administrator to execute the amendment to the contract with Racy Engineering, PLLC, in accordance with the renewal option in the contract to extend the contract for a 1-year term of July the 18th, 2020 to July the 17th, 2021.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Could we get a roll call, please?
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. May?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, open for discussion is the award of contract, general excavation for GEI for hired equipment services. Mr. Berry and Caitlin.
The county issued an invitation for bids for a qualified firm to provide roadway maintenance, repair, construction, and drainage improvement work within the Berry Sanitary District in Warren County and other county-owned property in Warren County. On May 29th, when the bids were open, the county only received one bid, GEI. At this time, we would like to offer the contract to GEI for these services. The contract will begin July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, and the county will have the option to renew the contract for up to 2 additional years. A copy of the bid proposal and invitation for bid and the contract for GEI has been included in your packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I liked what I saw in here is, I mean, it's laid out and very clear down to the piece of equipment, how much per hour, and I guess that's what I've been looking for with each one of these contracts is, you know, it's laid right out there for you to be able to see, so I appreciate that. One question that I have, at our last meeting, we had H&W contract on there, and it was for what seems similar. So do we contract out with 2 entities?
This actual bid proposal, ma'am, was for roadway maintenance and construction. At the last meeting, I think what you were talking about, and Mr. Stanley can help me out here, since the last meeting, we've put out another RFP or invitation for bid that will not only include additional road contractors, but general building contractors as well. So that's currently in the street.
So that's why H&W was pulled last time? I didn't know if this one was taking the place of this.
No.
Okay. Because it's very similar what they're saying, so the difference would be this just works with roads, no building construction?
Correct. Road maintenance, road construction. We actually even had GEI involved in snow removal when we get into blizzard conditions. They have the type of heavy track equipment motor graders we need to open up the roads when we get blizzards.
Okay. Those were my questions, but I'm very appreciative. I mean, they've even got projects in here for us to be able to reference to their quality of their work and stuff.
They're a top-of-the-line contractor. I've been associated with them for many years, even in my past career with VDOT. They do quality work. They're a heavy construction contractor that we use for road building, major type projects. So.
I appreciate having all that information. It makes the decision a lot easier to do when you've got versus just sign, vote for a contract that doesn't have that.
Do we have a motion?
Let's see. I move the Board of Supervisors authorize the county administrator to execute a contract between Warren County and General Excavation Incorporated for hired equipment services for various sanitary districts and other county-owned property in Warren County.
Second.
Any further discussion? Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Holders?
Aye.
Mr. May?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Number 5, awarding of contract property and casualty insurance coverage for volunteer fire and rescue services. Chief Maybe and Mrs. Jordan.
The Warren County Fire and Rescue Services put out an invitation for bids for insurance coverage on volunteer stations and apparatuses that were due no later than May 29th. There were only 2 bidders that met the deadline. The lowest bid was with Chesterfield Insurers. And so at this time, we have drafted a contract. We would like to extend the contract to them based on the IFB and the response.
Are they, I've never heard of them, are they a solid company as far as longevity and all of that?
Yes, ma'am, we've had them before, when, a real short history is, I will say probably 7 or 8 years ago, each individual fire station got their own insurance. Then we transformed to a system where they still got their own insurance, but we reimbursed them the premium. And then we decided by grouping them all together and bidding for the insurance, we saved some money, which we did. So that first year, VFIS is actually the home company that, I think it's LD and B bid would be VFIS, different from Chesterfield. And Chesterfield won that bid, and then when it came time to rebid it, then VFIS beat out Chesterfield, so they swapped back and forth. And this is the year that we put it back out to bid. I think the contract, correct me if I'm wrong, is good for 2 years, and I think it has 3 extensions on, 1-year extensions on it if we want.
And those are, the renewal rates are based on how much usage is what I read in here, correct?
Yes.
So if we
Well,
have a flat year, the rate shouldn't probably go up too much, or I know you don't have a way, but is that what they meant by that?
It shouldn't increase at all, okay, because the values of the stations won't increase. Well, they'll increase during the year, but it won't be bid back out, you know, so that shouldn't go up. This is on the buildings and the apparatus, pretty much everything but health and injury. That's a whole separate policy.
I don't know if you know offhand, but do you know if we're saving any money?
Do you want to ask me that? I'm really not sure. I can check and let you know for sure. I'd like to say that.
Sign language going on behind you, I'm not sure.
Is it like 1,000 cheaper?
Well, it's cheaper, but I don't know if we're saving from last year's premium. I can't see it back here.
Yeah, that's what I thought I would tell you.
I want to say we are, but I'll check and get back with you. I can check tomorrow.
Do they have a local agent, and who is it?
No, sir. They're out of Chesterfield or the Richmond area. But like I said, we had them before. We were tickled to death with them. Their vice president visited us quite often to make sure that we were happy or what have you. My secretary, who handled all of our claims with them, was tickled to death with them, and they had this really good working relationship going as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Do we have a motion?
I move the Board of Supervisors approve the property and casualty insurance policy that Chesterfield insures as proposed in their IFP effective 7/1/2020, and an annual cost of $71,509 to be paid semi-annually.
Second.
Any further discussion? Can we get a roll call, please?
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. May?
Aye.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Fox?
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the authorization to advertise for public hearing of boundary line adjustment between Warren and Clark counties in the Shenandoah Farms area. Mr. Stanley and Mr. Childers.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'll read the cover sheet, and we got Mr. Childers here. He can help. He's been handling a lot of the day-to-day contact with both the surveyor and the folks in Clark. So in your package, request for the board to consider a boundary adjustment for the Warren Clark County line in the Shenandoah Farms area. The county has been aware of concerns about the boundary line for years, as the boundary between the two counties was originally approved by the General Assembly as a straight line in 1836. The issue was raised when we were looking to construct the Old Oak Lane Phase 1 Rural Addition project. A further concern was raised in 2018 via the Virginia Department of Elections regarding precinct lines around the state. The area in question in this location affected the congressional districts since Warren County votes in the 6th district and Clark County in the 10th district. Warren County staff contacted Clark County to evaluate the GIS data in the area relative to the county lines and associated property lines. It was ultimately determined that Clark would engage Dunn Land Surveys of Berryville to survey the line for Warren and Clark to determine where the county line was in reference to the parcels that are thought to be in Warren and Clark counties. It was discovered that parcels were subdivided and recorded in Warren County, primarily in the Shenville Farms area in their subdivision, and have been taxed in Warren County that were actually located in Clark. So people were taxed in Warren, their kids went to school in Warren, they voted in Warren, but they were in Clark County. In talking with representatives from Clark, we wanted to look at a boundary adjustment to clean up the area, the boundary line between the two counties, and place property owners in the county they thought they were in, where they were paying taxes, where they voted, and where their kids attended school. A community meeting was held August 29, 2019, the Company 6 Fire Department Auxiliary Building to review the situation with landowners. Following discussions during that meeting, a proposed adjustment to the line was developed to bring, again, those that thought they were in Warren into Warren County. In addition, it was decided to include in the draft to propose adjusting the Company 6 Fire Department buildings and the POSF office into Warren, since their primary dealings were in Warren County. The procedure for a voluntary boundary line adjustment between two counties with no conditions attached is for each county to hold a public hearing on the proposed boundary line adjustment agreement. Then, if approved by both counties, a petition is to be filed in either a circuit court for approval by court order. The court enters the order, copies are sent to each county and the Secretary of the Commonwealth. Proposed boundary line adjustment agreement is, I guess, in the process of being drafted. I know we all got some of the information.
I do, you sent it to me last week, and I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, but we'll have that for public hearing. In addition, I got some additional color version maps, and I think I gave one to Ms. Oaks and Ms. Colors, and I'll give that one to you guys as well. The yellow line on there is the proposed line, the white line is the existing line between the two counties. Mr. Childress, anything that I missed or I should add to the discussion?
No, sir, I think you covered it pretty well. Just a little more detail on how it originally happened. The original land, the original developer surveyed a large section within the Shenville Farms subdivision, primarily in Warren County, but the upper 10 to 12 lots actually laid in Clark County. He brought the entire subdivision plat to the Warren County Clerk's office without the county line shown, splitting the portion on the northern end of it and had it recorded in Warren County. So that's how the issue originally started back in the early 70s. The plat was recorded in the Warren County land records with no Clark County line on it.
There was a question, I think, Ms. Colors asked me earlier, or maybe it's Ms. Oates, but there are approximately 8 houses in that area that are impacted. There's some vacant lots that could be developed on as well. And then again, you got the 2 buildings there with the fire department, and you got the POSF structure as well. A lot of the other adjustments are just more land adjustments, trying to clean up the line and tweak it, including a property owner, Mr. Apici, there along the river, who had an island that was split in 2 and wanted that entire piece in Warren County to go with the rest of his property.
So effectively, they've been voting and paying taxes in Warren County in spite of the fact that the actual boundary lines were in Clark. That's what you're basically saying. So this is an administrative thing. These people are already in, I mean, they've been paying taxes, they've been acting like they're in Warren County, they just didn't know it.
It is, if we can get this done and completed within 60 days of the election, we can get it corrected so they can vote this fall in the election, this fall in the correct county.
Some of those people weren't allowed to vote last time because they weren't in the county. It's true.
So they believed they were in the county, but they couldn't vote in the county?
They were actually in Clark, so they'd have to vote in the Clark side.
Okay,
So it would not include any votes, say, for supervisor,
okay.
and they're in a different congressional district. That was one of the big bugaboos, is that they had to be in the correct
They're in the
congressional
10th district and we're in the 6th. So that, yeah, Okay.
You can't vote for both.
No, so the property records would be transferred from one to Clark County,
The Clark to
or from Clark to one.
And
Actually, a lot of, they're in our tax system now.
Okay. So, okay.
how does that affect those seven lots that are, I believe it's Mr. Brumfield's property? That it looks like to me they're losing something. And
Mr. Brumback?
Brumback, excuse me.
Yeah, so it's getting tweaked. Those are large acreage parcels. Those are big farm parcels. So I hate to say it, but it's going to the middle of the farm field and the line slides over a little bit. So what will end up happening is they'll adjust the acreage that's getting taxed by either county, but there's no home as far as land at the bottom of that section. I think it's going across the field, so to speak.
Okay.
And again, each property owner would have to be notified for both counties of the public hearing and in addition to newspaper ads as well.
And this is just for public hearing, so. Okay, do we have a motion?
Okay, I'll move that the Board of Supervisors approve the request to authorize the advertisement of a public hearing for the proposal to adjust the boundary line between Warren and Clark counties and the Shenandoah Farms areas outlined.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Mr. May?
All right,
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
thank you. Item number 7, the authorization to advertise for public hearing, the Morgan Ford boat landing. Mr. Stanley and Mrs. Rossa.
I'll take it, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, member of the board. Warren County has been planning for the construction of a boat landing and parking facility adjacent to the new Morgan Ford Bridge to improve access to the main stem of the Shenandoah. It's a critical location to the fact that it has a long history of being heavily used by the public, despite it being underdeveloped as a proper access point. The site is also nearly equidistant between the two other heavily used landing points at Riverton and the Riverview Road, Shenandoah Farms location. This will provide the first public access to the main stem downstream from Christian College, where existing dam limits access. Parking area showcase the low-impact development techniques will be included in the project, as well as educational signage and kiosks focused on conservation, non-point source pollution, and recreational opportunities. In early 2018, VDOT completed the replacement of the Morgan Ford Bridge. The landing will be adjacent to the bridge project. While the bridge was a $7 million project, improving the boat landing was not deemed to be an eligible expense. Portaging around the bridge is no longer required due to the elevation of the bridge structure, the deck. We do anticipate public use of landing continuing to increase. The landing area that has been utilized prior to the bridge construction is owned by Virginia Department of Game and Fisheries and is significantly undersized at 0.1619 acres. To accommodate additional usage, the county acquired 2 areas of the lots adjacent to the landing so the development could be expanded an additional 0.8439 acres for a total of 1.0058 acres. Cooperative agreement was previously approved between VDGIF and the county, which has the county assuming responsibility of the development and maintenance of the facility. Warren County has been approved for $100,000 in DuPont settlement funding for the implementation of the project. According to VDGIF, the funding is currently available. The county will have to expend the funds prior to reimbursement. The county has approximately $50,000 in matching funds available for the project. I'm not going to go over the usage of the site, but $100,000 DuPont grant funding and $50,000 county funding. The county engaged land planning design to develop a preliminary plan and cost estimate for the project. Both the plan and the estimate are in your packet. The initial project budget that was originally approved with the CIP was about $578,000 with anticipated more amenities at the site. In addition, it included the cost of bidding the work out to completely to an outside contractor. The project has been scaled back and VDGIF has agreed to install the concrete ramp. Current plan is to utilize county resources to construct the facility. Current estimate for the development of the landing is about $211,150, but that includes the paving the full lot, which is not going to be done during the initial development. Currently, site lighting is included in the project. This may be reduced. However, given the facility is open 24/7 and the history of criminal activity at the site, we do want to include some site lighting at the facility. Again, only the upper portion will be paid due to concerns of PDGIF about flooding. With the reduction in scope of the budget, will be decreased by about $50,000. With the funding from the state, we should have enough to cover the cost of the project. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. When we went out on our site visit, Ms. Cullors suggested we have a public hearing on the project, and that's why it's on the agenda tonight.
Concerns or questions?
Well, as everybody knows, I have a lot of concerns about this area, and that's why I asked for us to go down and look at it, and also to put it for public hearing, because I want everyone to be very much aware of what this is going to entail. And I do have a question, because I went back, what's in our packet is kind of limited versus what was originally when it was brought up in September of 2019, that lays out quite a bit more information. And I went back to the site, and this information is not there anymore. So people that want to get this themselves, you can't get to it. So
A lot of that is actually, if you look at the capital improvement plans online, has a lot of that was stolen from the capital improvement plan cover sheets. That's still on the county website, but we can.
Well, I think most people go back and look at the meetings and go down that route, and it's, all you get is the agenda sheet there. So for
Emily can go
transparency's
back and
sake,
check that.
it'd be nice to be able, because there's a lot of information in here that everybody needs to be aware of before we have a public hearing. I think it would make the public hearing go a little smoother. My concern here is, I live on the river, for anybody who doesn't know it, and my family is, the house we live in has been in the family for 100 years. So I understand that river very well, and my concern is we've got a 25-year commitment with DGIF that whatever we put here, we have to replace. And I think 2018, when we had one flood after another flood, if we didn't learn a lesson that whatever we put there, the river was going to take out. And that, you know, the original cost is concerning in and of itself, but the replacement cost concerns me greatly. And I don't have a problem with the ramp and making it a nicer area than what it is now. It just concerns me to put stuff there and have a commitment that, you know, if you don't get down there in a timely flash, and flash floods and things happen. Friday, June 5th proved that, if nothing else. You may or may not be able to get whatever, a few things, and the rest of it could wash right on down the river. Lights, I think you gave me an estimate of $40,000 to put the lights in, and I think you gave me an estimate when I first brought this up that it's like $1,800 a pole to put back. 2018, we could have been putting that up every other week and replacing the parking lot, and I just can't see doing that much. I think a ramp is nice, getting the egress, ingress thing there to get in and out of the water. But I think people really need to look at this and think of the long-term commitment the county's going to put in possible replacements. Because you're not going to tame that river. She'll prove us wrong every day.
Any other concerns? If we don't put this on public hearing and want to put it out for future discussion, is it going to affect us one way or another with this grant?
Ultimately, you could lose the grant money, and that's fine if the board says, you know, we're not going to improve it. One of the, you know, obviously.
I mean, this grant is here for a while. I just wonder how far a while.
Yeah, we can put it off a month if you want, or do you want to get public info? I guess that's the question at this point.
Well, I think we need to get public and
I think so, too.
decide what the public thinks is, how much they think we should put there. I'm not saying don't do improvements there. We've got the grant money. We need to do some things there to make it more of a pleasant venture there. I just don't think we need to put stuff in that's gonna be a 25-year commitment, shrubs and lights and things like that, that we're gonna continually have, depending on the river, replace. That's my concern. Not saying we're not gonna do anything there.
If there are no additional concerns, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for what it's worth. I move that the Board of Supervisors authorize the advertisement of the public hearing on the proposed improvements to the mooring for boat landing at its meeting on July the 21st.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Could we get a roll call, please?
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. May?
All right.
Ms. Colors?
Aye.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
And also, if we could make sure that we have this whole packet so people have it.
Can you work with Emily to make sure that she knows?
Describe it.
Yeah, there you go. I am so sorry. I can't say that enough. Can you work with her to make sure that she's getting the packet for that you exactly want, so. And have it available for everybody. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the request for Sherwin-Williams to temporarily reduce rent payments from June 1st, 2020 through December 1st, 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mrs. Jordan?
The county has received a request from Sherwin-Williams. They have asked that we reduce their rent from, originally their request was from June to December of this year to give them a break due to the economic hardship that has been caused by the COVID pandemic. They have paid their June rent and they have paid it in full, so at this time we would be looking at July through December. What they've requested is a 30% reduction, and what I've done for the board is to, on the cover sheet, to make a note of what a 30% reduction to the rent would be. It would be $1,873.70 less per month, for a total of $11,242.20 total loss in rent from July 1st to December 31st of 2020. And just for the board's consideration, I've also broken down what a 25% reduction would look like, as well as a 20% reduction would look like. I have reached out to Sherwin-Williams, Mr. Lennick, who is the gentleman who reached out with the request. However, I have not received a substantive response from him. I was going to ask him if Sherwin-Williams would accept a reduced amount of a reduction, such as 20 or 25%. I assume that they would be. However, I just want to inform the board that I haven't been able to speak with him to confirm that. But I'll be happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
Maybe you don't know this, but how much do we owe on this building?
The building is not mortgaged. I checked with the finance department currently. The county is not paying anything for the building. The only monthly thing that goes through the finance department is the rent payment that Sherwin-Williams makes to the county.
So this technically, other than a little bit of loss in rent for a few months, is not going to affect the county at all.
Correct. There's not going to be a bill that essentially the county's going to have to pick up if we reduce the rent amount. It would just be the loss in rental income. They've been in that building since 1988, and so, and are projected to remain in that building until 2029.
Is that how long the current lease is?
So the current lease, they just did a renewal. The current renewal that they have done is good until 2024. But they have the option to renew it one more time for a 5-year period until 2029. Of course, they may not. They don't have to pick that up, but it is there and it's anticipated that they will.
Additional question?
Were they closed for any length of time, or I don't, I didn't think to ask that when we had discussed this earlier. I don't know if they were considered an essential. So did they have a period of time where they were shut down?
I can't answer that in the affirmative. I do know, I actually purchased paint there after the quarantine began, and they were essentially doing, you could call in your order, and then you would pick it up. You couldn't stay in the store and shop. How long that lasted, I'm not sure. It could have lasted the entire time, but I can't answer that.
Ms. Collins, I had the same experience. I went there thinking that they were essential because Lowe's sells paint. You could go there and buy paint. So I went to Sherwin-Williams and you weren't allowed to go in the building. And they told me I needed to call the number, place the order. I needed additional information, so I wasn't able to do that. So it was, but they were not open to the public.
Right, and I would say just because I've had extensive experience painting my home, I could see that being detrimental if you can't go in and peruse the paint chips and get samples and that sort of thing, so.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, concerns? Do we have a motion on that, please?
I guess we're trying to think of, when you reached out to them, did you give them these three options as well?
No, I reached out to them preliminary because the letter we received only provided a generic email address. It didn't even have a phone number to call Mr. Lennox. So I had asked that somebody reach out and call me back. It was only today that he sent a response, but it was, please email me any questions that you have. I then proceeded to email him specifically if they would accept the 20 or 25%, but he has not responded.
Okay.
And it'd be a whole lot easier decision to make here if he had given some kind of a response to,
I was surprised that a response took as long to get back to me as it did. I can only assume that they would take as much help as they can get, even if it's at a reduced rate, but no one from Sherwin-Williams has been able to confirm that to me.
Do we have a motion?
If we postpone this one more time,
that's what I was thinking.
it would be at the July
21st year, or 21st meeting.
July 21st?
That's the next one. Because July 4th, we don't have our morning meeting.
Okay. That's a long time.
Yes, it is.
Oh.
I would like us,
Like to go ahead and make a
I'd like to
decision.
go ahead and make a decision tonight.
Mr. Stanley, do you have any insight into this situation?
I think
You can
you would.
offer for us?
They would be appreciative of any action the board took to reduce their rent, say even if it's say 25% of the 20%. I think they've been a great tenant. As I've said before, they paid almost enough in rent to have paid the entire shopping center complex since we purchased it in 1998. So we definitely, I think it's be a good show of support. Whichever option the board chose, maybe split the middle and give them that. I don't think you'll get a lot of pushback from them. I think they'd be appreciative, and we'll word it that way in the letter.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll do it.
I move that the Board of Supervisors approve a temporary 25% reduction in Sherwin-Williams monthly rent for the property located at Constitutional Oak Plaza, 200 North Commerce Avenue, Front Royal, Virginia, from July 1st to December 1st, 2020, or December 31st, 2020.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any additional discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Colors? Mr. May?
Aye.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Next item is Swagat Production Systems LLC proposal for the video recording services in the boardroom. Mr. Stanley?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much. And I have Mr. Todd Jones here as well from the town. Thank you, Todd, for being here. The video recording equipment in the boardroom is outdated and malfunctioning. A joint work session was held with the Fort Worth Town Council on May 4, 2020 to discuss replacing the aging equipment. It was originally installed with the building in 2000, so it's 20 years old. The current proposal for the replacement of the equipment in conjunction with video indexing software, among other features, is to approve a contract with Swagat Production Systems LLC at a cost not to exceed $39,717.50. That's the county's equipment share. All costs, including annual support, hardware, and service. The work session on June 9th, the board further discussed the proposal submitted by Swagat and various concerns raised during the May 4th joint work session regarding the replacement of the audio system here in the boardroom, whether or not the service package could be offered by other companies, competitive pricing, security of the live streams offered by Swagat. With the concerns the board addressed, the work session's consensus to place and award the contract item on this agenda for consideration. The contract is contingent upon the town approving its share cost of $48,267.50 for the boardroom, and council approved such a contract at its regular meeting on May 11, 2020. So the initial setup cost is not to exceed the $39,717.50. $31,000 of that will come from our Comcast franchise agreement payment. The future annual cost, and this is a little bit lower, it's not to exceed $18,240. That's about $2,000 lower than the original $20,265 that was in the original proposal. Copy of the original packet of material is included, and like I said, Mr. Jones is here and he can answer more technical questions relative to the equipment.
Questions?
No, I think you did a really good job of going over this.
I think so too.
Well, I'll make the motion that the Board of Supervisors authorize the county administrator to execute a contract with Swagat Production Systems LLC at a cost not to exceed $39,717.50 for the replacement of the video recording equipment in the boardroom, as well as video capture, encoding, streaming, and indexing services for meetings of the Warren County Board of Supervisors and the Warren County School Board.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, please? Could we get a roll call?
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. May?
Aye.
Ms. Colors? Mr. Fox?
Aye. Thank you. The proposed joint tourism option between the county and the town of Front Royal. Ms. Logan?
Good evening. Since June 21st, 1993, the town of Front Royal has been responsible for the funding of the visitor center and tourism for the entire community. With the growth of the lodging industry into the county limits, Warren County adopted a 3% increase to the transient occupancy tax, which was effective July 1st, 2017. That allowed the county to collect money to be spent for tourism purposes. It was understood that this would allow the town and county to put additional resources towards the branding and marketing of the community as a destination, not to duplicate the town's efforts. The town and county appointed the Joint Tourism Advisory Committee in 2017, and I have a list of the committee in your packets. I thought that would be helpful. I'm not sure if you all actually have ever had that. So the committee is made up of the 9 representatives from the town and county, including lodging partners. The county has had a wonderful relationship with the town's tourism representatives through the years. The town has traditionally funded tourism, and when the county began collecting the additional tax, we helped to enhance joint efforts. Some of the joint efforts I'm including in my cover sheet, just so you all are aware. A community wayfinding sign program to promote tourism and provide directional guidance to tourism destinations in our community. That is an exciting project that is moving along, as Mr. Stanley pointed out earlier. The Shannon Spears Trail, we work jointly to fund this program, which provides ads and messaging representing our local breweries and wineries. Membership of the Civil War Trails program, we work jointly with this organization to help maintain our Civil War trail signs and help with the marketing efforts for this program for our community. We work jointly to maintain our county's membership with the Shenandoah Valley Tourism Partnership. We do get a lot of marketing opportunities from that. It allows us to participate in regional programs, working together with all of our surrounding communities. Designation of the county as an Appalachian Trail community, that was an excellent joint effort that we worked diligently together with the Potomac Appalachian Trail Fund to become designated as an Appalachian Trail community. There are many others I can think of that we've done together through the years, but I just wanted to emphasize some of our joint efforts that we've been involved in and with their different representatives through the years, sorry. As my department has been involved with this joint effort, it has been exciting. So we were asked, the Joint Tourism Advisory Committee was asked to recommend options for a path forward on a joint county tourism program. The committee suggested several options on how a tourism program could be designed and structured. We appreciate our Vice Chair of the committee, Ms. Carrie Barnhart, for organizing and presenting these options to both the town and county governing bodies. As discussed at the Board of Supervisors work session on June 9th, the consensus is to move forward at this time with option 3A from the PowerPoint presentation from the advisory committee and the tourism research and steps to move forward. The 3A option is included in your packet. This option involves sending out a request for proposals to completely contract out the joint tourism program. Contract management and fiscal control will be conducted by the town and/or county. Both entities would contribute financially to the program as it would be a joint tourism program contracted to the private industry. The role of the contractor would be visitor services, marketing and advertising for the community, research and analytics, and more. The Joint Tourism Advisory Committee would serve as oversight role for strategic planning and budgeting. They would serve as partner liaison. Ultimately, it was discussed transitioning into option 3B, which would bring the role of the advisory committee to a formal board structure with an executive management role over the contractor. This would take time to structure, and therefore, for now, the recommendation was just option 3A moving forward. The county's contribution for funding will come from the money we are now collecting from the additional 3% lodging tax and must go towards tourism-related activities. And I'm very happy to answer any questions that you have on this. They go back and watch the work session from last week, so I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
So the dollars that we're going to be giving the tourism board doesn't really come from us. It comes from the lodging tax that has to be done for tourism.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's what we're actually attempting to do here.
We could start we started collecting the 3% additional lodging tax, and that is, in the state code, it does specify it needs to go to tourism-related activities, and then members of the lodging partners need to give us advice as to how to spend that money, which is really the premise behind starting the joint tourism advisory board. And we went, collectively with the town of Front Royal to establish that because we didn't want to duplicate any tourism efforts.
So we're doing our best to work as closely as we can with the town.
Yes, sir. And like I said, we've had a great relationship working with them. The Joint Tourism Advisory Committee, and we have great representatives on that board. And they put a lot of time and effort towards these options and years past. So.
Is it being suggested it would be equal contributions by the town and the county?
That's my understanding. I don't think, I don't know if we've really even gotten into those details, but I would think that would be the most fair way to do it.
So there's still a few things that need to be ironed out.
There's definitely details I feel that we need to be worked out, and that could be, through the contract negotiation with whoever the contractor that's selected at that time. Because, the visitor center is going to be a question as to what whoever is contracted plans to do with that. So there's definitely.
Now, do you know how? I'm sorry to overcome all of y'all, but Do you know how the town is leaning towards, or what they're leaning toward? Are they happy with this 3A concept?
Well, when we had the meeting of the 2 representatives from the county, and then we had 2 representatives from the town, and some members of the advisory committee. The advisory committee, as the advisory committee was before, was just kind of laying out, here's some options. And then it seemed like the discussion between the county representatives at that meeting was on toward option 3A to transition into 3B, which sounds like your discussion at your work session as well.
And that's correct, Mr. May. And the FY 2020-2021 tourism budget, woo, for the town is $225,000 and for the county is $200,000. So the county doesn't have quite the same
It's not the
amount,
same
but it's
split.
pretty close.
Yeah.
Yes, and then we'll do 3A. Ms. Cullors and I will be overseeing and a part of the decision-making process and overseeing the way that the distribution is handled.
Awesome.
We'll be doing that jointly with the town, and so far it's been a great cooperative effort.
And it has been.
Additional questions? Do we have a motion?
I move that the Board of Supervisors move forward with option 3A, a fully contracted out joint tourism program with the town of Frontville.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Cullors? Mr. May?
Aye.
Ms. Phillips?
Aye.
I think that I see this as an opportunity for the town and the county to continue to get together on some level.
I'll do that.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the equitable distribution of the coronavirus relief fund payments between Warren County and the town of Frontville, Virginia. Mr. Farrell.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. So on June 5th, 2020, county and town officials met a second time to determine the equitable distribution of CARES Act funds between the county and the town. In attendance from the county were Walt May, Dolores Oates, Doug Stanley, and myself. In attendance from the town were Eugene T. Walt, Bill Seelock, Matt Tederick, Doug Azier, and B.J. Wilson. This group concluded the distribution of funds be solely based on population and agreed to using $25,000 or 62.5% as the county population and $15,000 or 37.5% for the town population for a total Warren County population of 40,000 or 100%. Additionally, this group recommended that the county withhold $100,000 to fund the May 22nd, 2020 Chamber of Commerce request for $60,000 and to fund an internal CARES Act fund audit for $40,000. There is no cost to the county or town of Front Royal. All funds must be properly accounted for. Any funds that are not expended or that will not be expended on necessary expenditures on or before December 30th, 2020 by the locality or its grantees must be returned to the Commonwealth of Virginia no later than December 30th, 2020, and the Commonwealth of Virginia is entitled to invoke state aid intercept to recover any such unexpended funds that have not been returned to the Commonwealth within 30 days of December 30th, 2020. With that, I move that the Board of Supervisors of Warren County allocate $3,504,153 from the CARES Act funding as follows. $60,000 withheld by the county for the purpose of funding the May 22nd, 2020 Chamber of Commerce request. $40,000 withheld by the county to fund an internal CARES Act fund audit. The remaining balance of $3,404,154 to be allocated between the county and town based on population as follows. $2,127,596, or 62.5% to the county, and $1,276,558, or 37.5% to the town, and that the town's portion of the CARES Act funding be distributed and appropriated to the town, contingent upon the town using such funds for expenses that are reimbursable under the CARES Act, upon the town providing documentation to the county sufficient to prove that such expenses are reimbursable, and that the town comply with other applicable laws and county requirements concerning the expenditure of funds, including but not limited to requirements that will specify the timeline for the submission of such documentation by the town as determined by the Deputy Emergency Coordinator in consultation with the county attorney. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, make a point of order. Can a motion be made? Mr. Rick Darrow?
I think that he was basically just reading what it was all
So
about.
we just have to reference it.
You just have to reference this, I would think. Am I incorrect?
He was just reading it. Mr. Fox said, no, he can't make motions, and I think he knows that. He was just reading it.
Okay.
Just so the numbers are...
I thought I heard a motion.
Well, he did say that, but he wasn't making a motion. He was just reading what the proposed motion was and the rest of it. He was reading the entire thing.
Very well. So we would have to make a motion and read all that over again.
You would, yes, and I do want the motion to be complete because the fine print is important because we want to make sure that money that is allocated to the town is CARES Act money and protect the Warren County as much as possible.
And I hope you understand I was just concerned about that. Make sure we do it all properly.
Yes.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, you want the whole thing read again?
Yes, please.
All right. I move that the Board of Supervisors of Warren County allocate $3.504153 million from the CARES Act funding as follows. $60,000 withheld by the county for the purpose of funding the May 22nd, 2020 Chamber of Commerce request. $40,000 withheld by the county to fund an internal CARES Act fund audit. The remaining balance of $3.404154 to be allocated between the county and town based on population as follows. 2.127596, which is 62.5% to the county, and $1,276,558, or 37.5% to the town. And that the town's portion of the CARES Act funding be distributed and appropriated to the town contingent upon the town using such funds for expenses that are reimbursable under the CARES Act, upon the town providing documentation to the county sufficient to prove that such expenses are reimbursable, and that the town comply with all other applicable laws and county requirements concerning the expenditure of the funds, including but not limited to requirements that will specify the timeline for the submission of such documentation by the town, all as determined by the Deputy Emergency Coordinator in consultation with the county attorney.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Mr. Farrell, I know that you mentioned $40,000 withheld by the county to fund an internal CARES audit. That is only an estimated number at this time, correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to get a roll call on this, please.
We need a second.
We need a second.
Mr. Fox seconded.
Yeah, you missed Mr.
Did
Fox.
you? I missed it.
Yeah, you missed that.
Sorry.
I'd like to have a roll call on that, please.
Ms. Oates?
Aye.
Mr. May?
Aye,
Ms. Hollis? Aye. Mr. Fox?
Aye.
thank you. Next item on our agenda is the public comment period. We've got about a 15 to 20 minute time limit on that. And the general public comment period is an opportunity for the citizens to give input on relevant county issues which are not on the board's agenda and is not intended as a question and answer period. Mrs. Shiraki? Do we have anybody signed up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Paul Weber?
Thank you. I was thinking about the boat landing, and back in the 80s, there was a flood that came through. I don't remember the name, but the trees down there at that boat landing had clothing, pieces of trailers, mobile homes, and cows hanging from the tops of the trees. That's how bad the river can get. My main thing is I would like to gingerly walk around or through a matter that I've been having a problem with. It concerns, I'm not going to get into the politics or any of the other things. I just want to say a few things on Black Lives Matter. I've seen posts on Facebook in this county, in this town, that have gone far as saying Front Royal in Warren County is referred to as racist, full of white supremacy, and if you're born white, you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. I would say that 90 to 95% of all the citizens in this county say that all lives matter, not what the color is, or the race, or where they were born. There's racism in some people no matter what color or nationality of the person. This will never change. It may be a great dream that it can be changed, but it's only a dream. One can march, one can hold festivals, or whatever to stop racism, but it will never change some minds. There was a post on Facebook that I read that Front Royal was known as Helltown because of slavery. That is the furthest from the truth. Helltown and slavery had nothing to do with each other. And that is what's being spread out on the community Facebook. This is what I see. And I'm saying this because I'm to the point of really being aggravated at this county and town being torn apart by some people, whoever the people are. People of all colors, all nationalities. Here's what I see in this community. People of different color, different races, different nationalities, letting other people of different color, races, or nationalities go first at a four-way stop sign. Being nice, being generous to other people, not racism. I see people of different color and nationality hold a door open for another person of different color or nationality, not racism. I hear the words "excuse me" at a store from one person to another, no matter what the color or nationality, not racism. I see and hear the word "hello" and the words "have a good day" from people of different color or nationality to other people of a different color and nationality, not racism. I see good conversations taking place with not caring about the color, the race, or the nationality between the people having that conversation. Like I said, racism will never end. It's in all colors, all nationalities. It will never go away. It lies in whites, blacks, and all people of different nationalities. But what I see here locally, and this is what gets me, is locally, this is not a pure racism town and county. I see locally is people living, working, shopping, playing, and dining out together, no matter what the color, the race, or the nationality of the people are. This is a good county and a good town for people who share the same ideas of race and nationality and color. So why don't we start looking at the positive about what the people do share in this county instead of going at each other about what color we are, what race or color we are, and what nationality we are. Thank you.
Mrs. Shiraki, anyone else?
Gary Kushner?
Gary Kushner, 1106 Fetchit Road. I want to ditto Mr. Gabbert's comments. I would invite you to read a letter to the editor that I posted on the Royal Examiner today that addresses that same matter about inappropriate charges about racism that don't really exist in this county. I wouldn't live in a place that was like that. I'm going to speak a minute about the Front Royal Golf Course. On March 3rd, the board met to evaluate a bid from New Dimensions for $100,000 to manage the golf course. It was $100,000 for 3 years with some extensions. And there was a big discussion about it, and the board, I think, made a proper decision. They denied the proposal. And I think a lot of people thought that the thing was dead. Your ideas have been confirmed. But at the June 9th work session, surprisingly, there was a thing on the agenda about evaluating a new bid for the Front Royal Golf Course. And I don't know where that came from. I didn't hear anything about a new RFP being issued, but the board saying, well, yeah, we didn't want to spend $100,000 for 3 years, but let's see if we can find something else. So this bid was from an LLC that had just been created from a group that didn't have prior golf course management experience, but it was just for $25,000 a year instead of $100,000 a year, so it wasn't as bad as before. But New Dimension was a company that had experience in managing golf courses. And they had done their due diligence and said, hey, to do this, we really need $100,000. And that just didn't fit in our scheme of how we want to run this county. So it was denied. So somebody coming in and said they can give $25,000 should give you pause. And I think Supervisor Oates pointed out from the financial spreadsheet that they offered that given the limited numbers that they were providing, that it was an iffy undertaking at best. So I made my position clear then that I didn't want to spend $25, much less $25,000 a year on that kind of an enterprise. And the bottom line as to why it's not a thing for us to support is that the county shouldn't be in competition with private industry for these type of activities. If that's true, then what's next? Are we going to create a canoe company? No, it's not a good idea. Competition needs to happen within private industry and government not competing with them. The board session on March the 3rd dealt with the bid decision just as an agenda item. But at the work session, there was a proposal that we have a public hearing for this new bid. And I don't understand why it's different. We don't need a public hearing for this bid because the board has already dealt with this topic and made their position known on it. So I suspect that it's already been advertised. Is that true? So we're going to have a public hearing whether we need one or not, whether it's in conflict with what we've done on our prior bid, our contract. And I find that upsetting. Something else is going on here that I guess I'm just not aware of. The other thing I would mention is that we have these time limits for the public speaking. And we're supposed to have a representative government. And if we can't spend as much time as is necessary to hear from the public but how we think we should be governed, then we're in trouble. And I object to, in the earlier public session, being cut off because there was supposedly a bunch of other people that needed to be heard from, when in reality there wasn't. And so I couldn't finish my discussion about matters that now have already been voted on. And I want to thank Ms. Soates for clarifying how that money should have been spent. I had an opportunity to get some documentation today that I didn't get a chance to read, and it just seemed like, in my mind, in my logical mind, that it would make sense to try and make the county's problem go away with the CARES money. But the results of that meant that instead of having a bit of money you pulled aside to start with, that more money was available to give to businesses. And the message that I'm hearing from you guys is that I spent a lot of time putting together what I thought was a reasonable proposal. It's logical, it's accurate, and it was discounted out of hand because the decision had already been made. So why in the hell should the people come up here and tell you what their advice is on something when the decisions are already made? Thank you.
Mrs. Shiraki, is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Christy Atwood.
Christy Atwood, 1255 Pilgrims Way, Bentonville, Virginia. I just wanted my house built correctly, and I wanted Warren County government to realize the terrible building department that they have. No one listened. So I got louder. No one listened. I got even louder and no one listened, and I'm not one to easily give up, but the more that I was ignored and disregarded, the madder I got. Why was I ignored? Because I was a mouthy female? Was I ignored because I'm not a member of the elite? Was I ignored because I didn't have $5,000 proffers? Did leadership not care that the building official, county administrators, and others were practicing illegally and unethically? I am mad not only for myself and my family, but for my community. My house is just a key on Warren County's plate of rotten deals and missing money. Skyline High School has been used 2 times for collateral. Sands Anderson wrote up those contracts. The 15th Street School, the ground it sits on, is leased or is leveraged as collateral. Sands Anderson wrote that up. The sidewalks are bubbling on Leech Run Parkway. Instead of VDOT controlling that project, the Warren County EDA did. We have a $5 million warehouse sitting empty. And recently, Warren County has reportedly paid $5,000 to have the splash pad power washed and painted with 5 $36 gallon buckets of paint that would have taken somebody 2 hours to do, maybe the most. And right now, in the midst of this pandemic and citizens being financially devastated, no one feels the love. So why are we putting a big old love sign at one of the most traveled and dangerous intersections in Warren County, 522 and Garden Hill Road? The foundation alone cost $7,000. They had a surveyor come in and do the site work. They had an architect draw up the plans for a 4-letter word, love. I can think of several other 4-letter words more appropriate. Now, what will the letters cost us? Another $4,800 to $5,000? We also need parking spots. And in my research, they cost $5,000 a piece. Warren County is spending $20,000 to $25,000 to fill the love of a crooked and broken system. How is it possible that an IT person has worked for Warren County off the books for nearly 20 years? What did this IT person do? How many others have worked off the books or hidden under a BB&T charge / reimbursement that no one could decipher? Because that's normally what we get in the packets for the budget. It would just say BB&T, and it was a credit card charge, but it didn't say what it was for. Here is a typed PDF of the text messages that I shared with this IT person between him and myself. I'm not going to name his name in public because he asked that I didn't. But it contains his phone number. I've already given it to, I think I emailed it to you, Walt, and I've given it to Dolores and Sharon, I'll give this to you, Archie. It is shameful, and the time has come for you, the Board of Supervisors, to fix this problem. It is time for a new county administrator. one who does not have tentacles in every pond. A county administrator that is not involved in specific clubs and organizations that can lead to back alley deals and coveted kickbacks. It is time for a county administrator to know that the Board of Supervisors is his or her boss and not the other way around. We need a county administrator who knows he works for the best of the citizenry, not the select few or to line his or her own pockets. A county administrator that does not use veiled threats, intimidation, or trained minions to rule the citizenry like a dictator. We need a county administrator that does not use Sands Anderson as part of a weaponized arm against taxpayers or the children of taxpayers. We need a county administrator who does not have a gold line contract and who is not considered CEO of Warren County and who must annually file a report of assets, trusts, memberships, partnerships in any business or LLC, civic or community affiliations, etc. Here I stand. I still stand. 3 years, just trying to get my shoddy house fixed. Y'all made me mad. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And no one's been held accountable. So I'm not going to go anywhere until I've been heard. And I know the state does rule on it in the month of July, and you will see a big difference because I was right. There are code violations in my home. So on July 1st, 2020, I can only hope that the new fiscal year brings in the promise of a new administrator and a new building official. The Board of Supervisors is worried about someone to lead the county. I'll fill in temporary. I'm honest. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'll send y'all my email too, or I'll email y'all my resume. As far as the building official, one who actually does their job and doesn't shop on Amazon would be a plus. So I just want to thank you for your time, and y'all have a great night.
Mrs. Shiranki, is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
No one else has signed up, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a motion? Would anyone else in the audience like to speak? Greg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors, Greg Harold, 422 Ridge Drive. It's good to see everybody again in person. I'm not really one to be able to speak about institutional welfare because the organization that I represent sometimes is probably a pretty big recipient of that with our ongoing drama. Anyways, I saw this evening a couple of examples. I think one may have been by mistake, and that was with the airport tax, the increase in the hangar fees. The second one was Sherwin-Williams. I think that was a fine opportunity for the Board of Supervisors to use their CARES Act money to help local industry in town instead of taking out of our budget. Keep in mind, you may own the building, and that rent could have been offset with CARES money, and maybe it will be, I don't know. But keep in mind also that Sherwin-Williams is in town and would be eligible for town of Fort Lauderdale CARES Act money. That's all. Thank you.
Linda McMillan, 1205 High Top Road. In the past couple of months, I've just really lost all hope in the board, especially over watching the videos. And Shenandoah Farms, I'm sort of wondering if you guys are going to appropriate some of that CARES money for some of those property owners that you raised $85 per lot. And I happen to have two, and I'm disabled. So, you know, I know what is it, $4 a month? Well, $4 a month is a heck of a lot for some people. And then this thing about changing the line, the Clark County line, you know, this really rips me. I am a property owner. I have lived in farms for 20 years, and my husband's family has been there since the 70s, okay? They were involved in all this because of the fact that the county made a mistake in telling these property owners that you're in the county, that you're in Warren County and not Clark. I don't see why it is that, oh, we got to go and change the lines. Why don't you just give the damn money back to the people that actually live in Clark County, that you charge for the sanitary district fee? Because I bet you if you sort of offered them that, they would probably sit there and go, hey, that's a really great deal. Because my original fee for the roads is like $15 a year, where I'm paying $350. And then also too, we know that properties have been were taken out in 96 when we became a sanitary district. And now, lo and behold, that when other builders buy them, then guess what? They get put back in to Shenandoah Farms. You know, wow, that's really super incredible. How these things can happen, and it's all under Mr. Stanley's guidance. And I do agree with several of the people that have gone up here and spoke about Mr. Stanley and his guidance and influence, especially on you three new board members. But it does really rip me that I've been coming down here for 15 years. 15 years talking about Shenandoah Farms. Then I can see on a video, Mr. May, the chair, asked Mr. Stanley, is Shenandoah Farms a POA? And he said yes. No, it is not, and it has never been. And I'm sick and tired of the county sitting there talking about our corporation, because we are a corporation, not a property owners. Oh, guess what? We're going to get your membership where it's mandatory, and everybody's a member. Who the heck is the county to have anything to do with our corporation? I mean, it's like you guys have got out of control, and all of it is because of Mr. Stanley and his dream and his pushing down our throats his idea for the capital improvement plan in Shenandoah Farms, and how the board, and I was on the board of Shenandoah Farms for several years, and man, let me tell you, we ran a great campaign to overthrow that board. But then all of a sudden the camera got missing, all of these things happened, and they claimed that we cheated, okay? So, if you guys really look at the contract with Shenandoah Farms, and the 300 and some odd pages over the 5 years that not just me, but quite a few of us Shenandoah Farms residents came down here, you would see all the malfeasance that happened and why the county took over the money. It wasn't to take over our community and make it something that we don't want. I mean, I'm just so frustrated over it, and I'm sorry I'm a little bit more upset because I just happen to be in pain, and sort of when I'm in pain, I get a little bit more angry. But I just really wish that the county would stay out of our corporation. He's the county administrator for Warren County, not Shenandoah Farms Sanitary District. And we are a corporation. And I'm just so tired of it. And how come it is that you guys want to keep pushing this? And the advisory board, it's a friggin' joke, because all they are is just puppets to what? Because if you go to the meetings in January, when they put out for the budget for the next year, it doesn't say Shenandoah Farms. It's done by Warren County. What roads, what everything is done, it's all done and presented by Warren County. And then, okay, now they're going to be changing these property lines. Has the county sent out a letter to every property Shenandoah Farms resident with a colored paper showing with all of the information? Because here we are again, and Mr. Bob Childress sitting there asking the board, oh, please give them a chance, let me work with them. Well, guess what? That happened 10 years ago. Mr. Fox was the chair at the time, who called us all to the principal's office, which I call the Board of Supervisors, because why? The board of Shenandoah Farms was not up and up. There was all these malfeasance. And what did the chair of Shenandoah Farms Board did? He cried, saying, we're just a bunch of volunteers and we don't know what we're doing. Well, the county worked with them for 5 years, and they chose not to do it. Now we're 10 years down the line, And guess what? They want to work with you. Let us work with the board again. Come on, 15 years? This is absolutely, completely ridiculous. Why are you guys even involved in our corporation? For only the fact of raising our taxes, our sanitary district fees taxes, because that's something different, and Mr. Stanley having this grand idea for our community, where we don't even have a say in what's going on in our community. And I'll have more to say, but it's time of the evening and I need to get off my feet because I've been standing back there the whole time. Thank you very much.
Anyone else like to speak? Not, I'm open for a motion.
Are we talking about the love sign? I think Ms. Cullors mentioned she wanted to talk about the love sign.
Oh, well, I've forgotten now who, my mind is getting a little boggled here, brought up, but Christie. My concern with the love sign is I don't have a problem with there being a modestly built love sign here. My problem is now that we're putting in a parking lot on a dangerous piece of road where we took that dangerous piece of road into consideration when we considered the pros and cons of putting a development on it. So there's my part. I think I can't agree with that parking lot and encouraging more traffic there when it's a dangerous piece of road.
I've asked, Mr. Chairman, I've asked Joe Petty to come in. Joe's handled this project from, I guess, cradle from the beginning. And Joe, can you get up to the microphone? Just talk a little bit about the project and the parking and why that's there.
Good evening. So we started this project as part of this tourism initiative, the Love Work sign. You see them throughout the state, and this property was identified as a gateway to our community, very prominent for everybody to come in, and we kind of want to celebrate that in a way. So as we started our discussion, it is VDOT right of way, so we talked to VDOT, obviously brought them in. We did bring in an architect and a surveyor so we can make sure that everything was done properly. And VDOT, classified as a low-grade commercial entrance, has a specific width, and they wanted it to be off of 522. So we targeted that side, put it in there, and this would allow people to come in and park and enjoy the space. We are looking to relocate. There are 2 historic monuments there for the state. We're going to relocate those off of 522, 340 to a better location where you can observe it from a safe spot. We are going to be putting up no parking signs along that shoulder and sodding that to VDOT's specifications. Again, to make it safer, there's also some Civil War trail signs there that we're going to relocate and also allow people to come in, see that. And the love sign as well is a tourism draw. They are inviting people to come and take photos. They have to be representative of your community, which is what we have done. And so this, when folks come here in our community, we want them to safely get off the road, park, be able to turn around, and then exit back onto Guard Hill Road safely, as VDOT has instructed us to do. And to encourage, not just our visitors, but our community to celebrate what we have here. I think it was spoken tonight that we have a good community, and that we have good people here, and I think that this kind of helps showcase that a little bit. I understand your reservations with that parking lot. Again, we worked with VDOT on this to make sure that we had adequate space for cars to come in, and it may be multiple cars at one time. There's a handicapped space that allowed them to pull in, back up, and then safely exit without going onto a busy street. As you know, in Guard Hill Road, it can be busy in that district. And again, the whole goal too was to get them off of 522. Currently, if you want to look at the existing markers there, you have to pull off on the side of that busy road. And as one who's been out there standing in that space, it is dangerous if you were pulling off there. So we were just trying to make it safer for folks to enjoy.
Well, and I can see, but, okay, so you're saying the parking spaces are gonna be on closest to 34522,
The parking spaces,
not go up and come in.
you would go up onto Guard Hill Road and then pull in.
Okay, so
VDOT would
then
not
you're-
allow an entrance onto 522.
Okay.
The speed limit right there is 45 miles an hour.
Then you have to back out.
Yeah, there's room in the parking lot where a car can do, and we've done the radiuses with the surveyor and the architect. So if you were to drive in, make a right off Guard Hill Road into the parking lot, you would park in your space. There is a turnaround area where you can then back in the parking lot without exiting the parking lot, turn around within the parking lot to then exit to VDOT standards. There's a grade change that you have to come up and rest and have sight distance and to pull out safely. So all that's been accommodated with this parking lot. That's kind of dictated the size a little bit to accommodate the turning radiuses for a car to turn around on site and not back on. We do not want people backing out into Guard Hill Road. Yeah, so that's what this size has kind of dictated to allow a car to safely turn around. And I'd be happy to sit down, maybe show you like the site plan and kind of go through that a little bit too. And be a
Well,
little more specific.
that is my concern. Like I said, I don't have a problem with the sign itself necessarily, because, we've got a couple other signs that are attractive, but we haven't encouraged parking there. And I do understand everybody likes to take selfies and all that, but, if you get a tourist into an area they're not familiar with and on that road, that's just a recipe for a
And there
disaster.
would be appropriate signage to direct you where to park. Again, we're going to put in the no parking signs as specified at VDOT to make sure nobody is stopping on 522, 340. We do not. That's the number one thing. And that's why also the parking lot had to come first, because we couldn't build a sign which would then encourage people to stop, and there was no adequate place for them to safely exit their vehicle and do the photo.
Question, Mr. Chairman. Is there any concern, someone traveling north, and they decide to stop on 522, so they decide to stop at the Love sign, so they pull in on Guard Hill Road. Now, when they pull back out, they still want to go north. They've got to go across the traffic, and that's a terrible road to get across. So is there any concern that there's, you're creating a traffic hazard by having people cross that 522 to continue going north? Or is that a valid question?
I think it is a valid question. Honestly, anytime you're adding additional traffic, you need to think about. I don't think that we had ever anticipated would be that much traffic, that you would be adding 50 cars a day or anything of that nature. I think we're hopefully, the weekend it may get one or two, at a time, but not an additional traffic. It is a concern. We can ask VDOT to just, we can talk to them to make sure that there is no concern if we're adding additional cars. What's their traffic counts now for people making left turns out of there?
Perhaps you could ask them if they would be willing to put a traffic light down for the people
Here you
coming
go.
down Guard Hill
Yeah.
Road, because it's terrible coming for those people, and lots of times they take the back roads going north rather than to come down to that intersection, because they can't get across the road there.
And I'd be happy to ask them with, our staff just to see what VDOT's plans are for that intersection, regardless of the love sign, to see what the future plans are with that. Because obviously as traffic does continue to go up, I've seen the traffic counters out there now, so I'm sure they're trying to figure out where it is right now.
It is an incredible, I live on that road, and it's an incredibly dangerous left turn, and the majority of people who live on Guard Hill now will go the back way out Rittenhour Hollow onto 522 because there is a stoplight there, and there is no light at this intersection. And what concerns me as well, and I echo my fellow supervisors' concerns, is that if somebody wants to turn left, you are there for 40 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes in October, which is going to be when the people want to stop at the love sign. and it's gonna be the leafers. And so I think it's a recipe for disaster unless we get some signal. And so what is the opportunity to put a signal up there?
Well, signal's 350,000. Now, good news is that we've embedded, there is pipe, there's conduit underground for a signal at that location that was done when North Fork Bridge was constructed. Again, I wish George McIntyre was still here. George allowed us to put the canoe sign. People love to take pictures sitting in the canoe. It is literally one or a couple cars a day. It's probably the traffic of one or two houses built up the road on Guard Hill coming back towards that. I don't think it's going to be, I don't think VDOT thought it was going to be a significant amount of traffic, but you'll have a few cars stop in. And obviously, yes, at peak AM and PM hours, but are those the hours that you're going to see the traffic stop? I think, you know, I hope we get some traffic, but I'm not anticipating it going to be that significant. But people have stopped to read the signs and do the other stuff, because I've seen them pulled over. You've probably seen them pulled over kind of in that gravel. That's what VDOT wants us to put no parking and to sod that over so that people don't try to pull off on the 522 side. They want to get off 522.
Well, there's a turn lane off of 522 to the right. So the turn lane, allows safely, you can exit onto Guard Hill. That's an easy, and Guard Hill is extra wide there. So it does allow for you to turn off. But if you are trying to get out and go left, that is a whole different proposition. And so, yeah, it concerns me a lot that people are going to be exiting, like Mr. Fox says, they may come into town and then on their way back out decide that they're going to turn it, and without knowing that it's going to be horrific. Sometimes in the leaf season, you can't even get out of Guard Hill Road. It is backed up all the way to 66. So, yeah.
And I'll say that it has been better since the new bridge and the jug handle has been put in. The backups have been a lot better last year.
Yeah, they don't go out to
Fairground
Road anymore, but it's still challenging to get out there, and that's our biggest concern. I'm a tourism. It's one of my passions for this community, and I want to have the best opportunities we can for tourism, but that's just, boy, that intersection is a difficult one.
And I'll also state that we did reach out to Virginia Tourism Group to ask for, they do a reimbursement program for love works throughout the state. Currently, given the COVID pandemic, they're not accepting applications or giving out reimbursements. But one of the criteria is, making sure that it's safe and there are places for people to pull off and appropriately pay. So we sent them the site plan and showed them what we were planning to do.
How many parking spaces is it?
It's currently 4. It's 3 regular and 1 handicap space.
Well, the only benefit of this love sign is that maybe the political signs are now going to go away, because in the fall that was the most hideous sight. I mean, they're everywhere. So that is the one
nice
benefit of the
gateway,
love
everybody
sign.
sees it, so that's I think what drew us to it as well.
Yeah, we can get rid of the political signs on the corner.
And I could go for a stoplight there for any other reason than because we put a love sign in. I'm sorry, we've got so many other things that to think that we'd have to put out $300,000 just so that people could get to a love sign.
Well, and we just
The
denied.
guys back there, I would give you your training center before I would be able to do that, guys. Sorry.
Well, we just denied Mr. Ramsey's request because we were concerned about the traffic at that intersection. So it almost feels like I've got double standards.
It does.
I would say again, Ms. Oates, that 150 houses is going to
It's
generate
different.
1,500 trips a day.
Yeah.
And here we're probably talking 10.
It's a waste of money.
It is. And was it brought before the board before it was started? That's my
It was
question.
brought before the previous board, I believe. So, yeah, we're just learning the ins and outs of it, but it was brought before the previous board.
Can I ask a question? I've been out of the loop for a while. Did the cost of all of this, the sign, the architect, the surveyor, was that all approved by you all, or was it just done?
It's not, I'm going to answer Mr. Gabbard's question. It's not a dollar threshold. It has to go to the board. We've been talking about it. Because we can use tourism dollars as part of the construction. We have applied for the grant as well.
The grade's $1,500.
So you all knew that an architect was going to be
This
involved
was done before our tenure.
before you all.
Yes.
Well, I
That
thought she
figures,
wanted all
that
capital,
figures.
like everything to stop. She needs to go. We would request that you request all amounts of money to go before the board or put the current county administrator on paid administrative leave until the end of his contract, because this is wrong. $7,000 for a foundation. I had someone who was killed. Someone I was in my mentor was killed at Art Hill.
Could I ask one more question?
Yes, ma'am.
Since you brought up traffic counters, and I did not think, did Mr. Childress ever get an idea of, what, with the traffic count, is that gonna be redone, or has he contacted the state?
Comment about traffic counters and VDOT. Did you ever have a chance to talk to Ed Carter about the traffic counter?
I have not seen that yet.
Okay. I know some of the counters are still out, and then I think that's I don't know how long the length, but with some of the restrictions.
Well, we've opened up some prior. I know South River and portion of town was done before opening, and those numbers are gonna be way skewed, so, you need to check into that. It is.
Thank you, Mr. Petty, for your information. Yes.
Now,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
any further discussion?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.